Hey everyone, I'm back with another patch show rundown for the Joust game mode. This is going to be going over the item and god updates for the Titan of the Cosmos update that comes out on December 14th. Normally I do item and god updates separately, but this one is kind of short, so I'm just going to bunch it all together. Hopefully we can get a nice little concise video for you guys and you can get all the changes that are happening and then adjust your plan for Joust accordingly. So as a side note, Atlas, a new Guardian, is also going to be released in this patch that comes out on December 14th, but I'm not going to be going over that specifically. There are tons of other videos that explain that and explain him. I'm excited for it, so check those out. I'll try to link them in the description section below. But for now, let's hop right into the item changes. The first item that's seeing a shift is Enchanted Spear. Magical power is being increased from 40 to 60. So if you don't know, Enchanted Spear is the tier 2 item in the spear tree. So Divine Ruin, Spear of the Mega, Spear of Desolation. The second upgrade in that tree is Enchanted Spear. These are the stats that it had before: 40 magical power, 5 magical pen. This is moving to 60 on December 14th. Not hugely impactful in the Joust game mode, especially because you don't up that first back. You don't usually back to get a second tier. You wait until your first tier is can be upgraded to a tier 3. But the only thing that this might impact is if you are deciding whether to wait and get the tier 3 or go back and get the tier 2. The tier 2 item will be a little bit better. I don't think it's better enough to warrant an early backing by any means, but it will be an improved item compared to what it was before. Along the same vein, Spear of Desolation, the tier 3 item in one of those spear upgrade trees, is in getting a magical power increase from 110 to 120. So that is obviously one of 3 tier 3 items you can upgrade after going magic focus. Let's just hop into Spear of Deso and see what it looks like here. So now instead of 110 magical power, you're going to have 120. And I do think that Spear of Desolation is one of the strongest items, probably the strongest item overall in that tree. Cooldown reduction is great for Joust. 10 pen, 10 flat pen early is really good for Joust as well. So this will be a positive change overall. It probably puts it above Magus and Divine Ruin if there is no healing. I think Desolation was already a really good item, and this won't change it. This will just make it just a little bit better. Spell Focus also getting an increased magical power from 45 to 55, similar to the tier 2 spear upgrade. Spell Focus is the tier 2 upgrade into the Obsidian Shard tier 3 item. So now instead of 45 magical power, this is going to have 55. Same impact as before. You're usually not going to back just to get this item, but if you do have to, if you need to survive before the next fight or whatever it is, get this item. It's going to have 10 more magical power, which should help you out. In that same tree, Obsidian Shard also getting an increase in magical power from 80 to 90. Here are the stats for Obsidian Shard if you don't know what this item does. This is the late game magical penetration item. So 20% magical pen, you're going to have 10 more magical power. If you have 2 tanks that you're playing against, this is the go-to pen item. That 20% pen is amazing, and your first ability cast also gets 10%, so you can get up to 30% magical pen just for that first ability cast. So this item was already good for mages, especially into double tank comps, and with more power, that obviously means that it will be even better. Going right along with the tier 2 items getting buffed theme is Book of Souls. So Book of Souls is the second item in the book tree where you can either upgrade into Book of Thoth, Polynomicon, Soul Reaper, or Book of the Dead. So if you needed to get this bridge item after you back, it's going to have 10 more magical power. Obviously that's better than 55, so kind of the same application as before. If you need to go back and get it, it's just going to be a little bit better. It's not worth backing earlier to get it. Maybe it just helps when you have to back in those kind of bridge situations. Within that book tree, Book of the Dead is one of the tier 3 items. That item is getting a nerf to the shield health on its passive. So if you haven't seen it, I'm sure you have. The book build is kind of taken over quite a bit in Conquest and even in Joust specifically, because you get this giant 30% shield based on your mana. So this is what the current item does. 120 magical power is a lot, 200 mana is great, 20% crowd control reduction is great. So this item is fairly bloated at the moment. It probably is. You can probably slot it in on any mage just to get that little extra survivability, similar to like Bulwark of Hope on Guardians. And with that shield of mana, it lets you build mana and really kind of have everything you need for a mage. So this is a good nerf, although 30% of your maximum mana down to 25% maybe isn't the full nerf that it needs. You're still going to see this being picked up, and 25% is still a good enough shield for most mages to survive in situations where they would have died before. So this is still a good item. It probably will be nerfed later on again, so probably want to still be slotting this into your builds if you can. Eye of the Jungle getting a little bit of a buff. Unfortunately, this item is fairly irrelevant in Joust, just because when you're in the jungle, you get these specific buffs, 15 HP5 and 10 MP5. So those are, what is getting this new buff of instead of 15, you're going to have 20 HP5. Instead of 10, you're going to have 15 MP5. But you're not really in the jungle that often in Joust, and you shouldn't be in the jungle that often in Joust. The majority of the game, you want to be fighting in lane, or the fighting in lane is just going to happen naturally. And if you're jungling, you're probably going to be putting your other teammates at a disadvantage. So unless you have some very, very fringe, weird strat that you want to fight in the jungle more than the lane, which I have never seen, I still think this is an item that you can pretty much stay away from. Protector of the Jungle, increasing the attack speed from 25 to 35%. It is a nice little buff, but since it's in the same tree as the Eye of Jungle that we kind of talked about before, you're really never going to be building this in Joust specifically. You don't need those buffs when you're in the jungle only. There are other items that are just better overall from start to finish. Bumba's is better if you're looking at the jungle items. All of the warrior items are probably going to be better for assassins, even just to have a little more survivability. So just like Eye of the Jungle, I would pretty much stay completely away from Protector of the Jungle for those reasons. All right, on to the gods. The first god that's going to be changed on December 14th is Terra. There was a weird kind of tech where you could pop her shatter and dash at the same time and get a ton of damage off. Not intended, so Hi-Rez is going to take that away from everybody in December, on December 14th. So you can only refire or shatter those monuments from crushing earth. So just a little quick note to remember, not everyone even knew that this was a thing, but she won't have that ability in this next patch. Bellona's Scourge, increasing the damage across all levels. So it looks like at the early levels, it's going from 80 to 90. At level 5, it's going from 220 to 250. So just a little more damage on that ability. I do think that this is already Bellona's kind of best ability. So this will help her a little bit. It also helps her to stop auto attack hunters and then heal herself at the same time. So it's very good for boxing. But you're not really going to be boxing that often in a 3v3 game mode. I think Bellona is maybe one of the weaker warriors right now. If you haven't seen my tier list, go check that out. I'll link it below in a card too. But I don't think this rises her in the ranks very much at all. She just doesn't quite do enough in Joust, but if you are Bellona main and you perform well with her, this could be a nice little buff for you. Ganesha also getting a quality of life change, maybe, probably a buff if you think about it, but his Ohm, the ability that silences, is going to be knockback immune while he's channeling. Now, I don't know if this means knockback and knock up immune, because sometimes Hi-Rez kind of puts those two things in the same category, but either way, it just makes it a little bit easier for Ganesh to get that Ohm off and get the full benefit of it. This is pretty niche just because there aren't gods that all, that have those knock up or knock back abilities, but if you queue into something like maybe a Geb or a Bacchus or something like that, you're going to be able to get your Ohm off way more effectively than you were before. So Ganesh is a pretty decent god in Joust. His ultimate is a kind of a game changer if you can hit it effectively and efficiently. So this will make him a little bit better. I just think sometimes his initiation is a little bit lacking compared to other guardians, but this is a good change for Ganesha. Vamana passive getting a little bit of a buff. This god is pretty interesting to me. He's kind of low on my warrior tier list personally, but I do think that this may help him out a little bit. He's getting 10% of his physical protection is going to be converted to % attack speed. So if he has 100 physical protections, he's going to get that 10% attack speed. You do want to kind of build somewhat hybrid in Joust, so I think this could be effective, and it will allow him to not rely as much on itemization to get his attack speed up, which is what he really wants, especially in his ultimate where he can just kind of pound on people. So this is going to be an interesting change. You might see him shift up a little bit, but there are also Ankh still exists in the game, so that kind of messes his ultimate up quite a bit. But we'll see. I think Vamana's kind of a siege diving or a tower diving monster at times, and if you get him snowballed and you're able to push down quickly, he can be pretty good. So this will be a nice little change for him. Ratatoskr's, all of his acorns are being changed since the removal of boots. I don't know, 6 months ago now. It doesn't seem like it's that long, but it probably is. We're getting a little bit of those shifting on the acorns because Rat could never buy boots, and it was never really accounted for, and now he's struggling because of that. So Evergreen Acorn getting more power, 10 more power on Evergreen Acorn, 10 more power on Thick Bark Acorn, Bristlebrush Acorn getting increased power as well, and they're increasing the buff for lifesteal to 15% lifesteal and 15% basic attack damage. This is the crit Acorn. When I watched the patch update show, they explained that this is the worst performing Acorn, which I can kind of see, and I do think that still probably applies in Joust. This is the, I think, lifesteal one, and this is the mitigations one, I'm pretty sure. But either way, this one getting a few more buffs compared to Thick Bark and Evergreen, and then Thistlethorn, which is the, you only need to use 3 acorns to stun, getting a 5 power buff. So this was the best performing acorn, I think is what they said, which is why they get a little bit less power compared to all of the other acorns. So we'll see. I think Ratatoskr is kind of a middle of the road assassin in Joust. He can be used pretty well to initiate with a jump or something like that, and he's fairly safe because he can almost always get away if he has his ultimate up, but I do think there are other gods that do things better, so we'll have to see what this change brings. I don't think it's enough to really put him up in the Joust rankings. Mercury also getting a little bit of a quality of life change, I would call it, but probably also would be considered a buff. He can fire his Made You Look Through walls, so the one ability that can crit from a long distance away, now he can do that over walls. I don't think this is a huge change for him in Joust. It is probably better. It will make him a little bit more viable if you just think of things like, critting. If you go behind the wall and you're trying to tower siege, and you can crit through the wall or over the wall, little cheeky things like that, it might make him a little bit more annoying to deal with. But I don't think it's a huge enough change that it really puts him up in the meta too much. Neith getting a couple changes. Her Broken Weave, which is her passive, when an enemy dies, a weave is kind of dropped where that enemy god dies. Instead of being there for 1 minute, that's going to stick around for a full 2 minutes, so double the time that a weave is on the battlefield. Pretty annoying for a support warrior main like myself. It's going to make Neith a little bit better, and then Unravel too, increasing the damage at later levels, it looks like, from instead of 190 at level 5 to 230. Just a little bit more scaling at level 2, 3, 4, 5, the same 70 damage at level 1. So I think Neith is still fairly diveable. Having those weaves up a little bit longer, I don't know what to call it, but if she gets early kills, right, and the weaves are up longer, and then she can use those weaves to get more early kills, it might be part of a very annoying snowball Neith type of meta. I've definitely been snowballed on before, but if you can avoid that kind of getting killed early game by her and jump on her early and just don't let her do what she needs to do with weaves, I don't think that Neith is going to be shooting up in the meta by any means because of these changes. Jing Wei also getting a host of buffs. Explosive Bolts, which is her 3, increasing the damage per shot from 100% of Jing Wei's physical power to 110%. So that's going to do a little bit more damage. And then just kind of a quality of life change where her ability to screen displayed incorrect information when Explosive Bolts was active. So that not a huge change on that front, but you're going to be doing more damage, which is kind of the more important part. Persistent Gust also getting decreased mana cost at all levels, so you're going to be able to spam that a little bit more. And then Airstrike also getting decreased mana cost at all levels. So in Joust, Jing Wei isn't great, but isn't bad either. She can be used very, very safely. She can get back into lane very, very quickly compared to other hunters. So I think she's a very middle-of-the-road hunter. These changes will be nice for her. She uses crit really well, which isn't usually meta in Joust. It takes kind of too long to get online, but if you're looking for a very safe hunter that you're not going to, you're gonna have a hard time dying on, and the other team's gonna have a hard time locking you down, Jing Wei is still probably a really good pick. Hunters I don't think are that great in Joust specifically, but if you're looking for a safe hunter, there probably is no better safe hunter than Jing Wei. The last change is Medusa. Medusa getting a couple buffs here as well. Acid Spray now applying healing reduction to 50%, and that's going to last 4 seconds. This honestly makes her 2 a lot better, especially in Joust. You can usually hit all 3 of the enemy gods in Joust, and 50% healing reduction, especially into like an Afro or Baron or whatever comp, is going to be really good. And her ult is obviously always a game changer too. So that Acid Spray having healing reduction makes Medusa probably more of a top tier hunter pick too. Lacerate no longer applies healing reduction, however, so that's not going to be the tool that you want to use, but it's going to be easier to use Acid Spray anyways to get that. And you can damage minions when you travel through them, so a little bit safer of a dash. That's it. That's all the item and god changes coming in the Titan of the Cosmos update. Again, as a reminder, this is dropping on December 14th, so keep an eye out for that. Keep an eye out for Atlas. I'm going to be trying him out immediately. So if you learned something and this video is going to help you, perform better in Joust, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitch, subscribe to me on YouTube, leave me a comment. All these things help and let me know that my videos are at least helping some people out there, and that's really what I want. So thanks again for watching. Much appreciated, guys.